Capitol Intel, a financial journalist. You see, unlike congressmen or senators or governors, you do something. You build things and stuff like that. So what did you think of the meeting? I mean, you have it in your...
Oh, we were just humbled that they would come to little Petersburg, West Virginia, and see us. Oh my God! It makes you feel good that people are trying to understand what we're doing.
Okay.
In a rural West Virginia town.
How big is your company? I mean, AWP.
We have about 14 locations all throughout West Virginia, about 860 employees. We're probably about the third large. We're the top three hardwood lumber producers, eastern hardwood lumber producers in the country.
In the country.
Yeah.
And you're a CEO. I mean, only the CEOs are able to look at growth and new strategy. How do you see yourself growing? I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there, especially post-pandemic. What would you see growing? I mean,
we had a pretty nice bump from the U.S. housing industry here about in 2021.
Yeah.
First time we've had a good bump from the U.S. housing industry since really before the Great Recession. It hasn't been consistent since then. Anything they can do to get housing back on track, smoother, that along with, we got a wonderful export market in China.
Yeah.
Whereas, our products are going to China, being used in China, they're not getting exported back. That's where we have a great opportunity for our industry to grow.
You have a lot of international sales. I mean, why is that? I mean,
as Tom Plonger mentioned earlier, a lot of heavy manufacturing, particularly furniture making, is done offshore. And so a lot of the wood products aren't being produced here.
Are you thinking about doing a foreign acquisition? I was just mentioning you could take over something in Ukraine with U.S. government financing, private equity for you. No, I was in northwest Ukraine. He should be taking over a Ukrainian mill using DFC funding. I mean, they have this beautiful part of northwest Lutsk, which is fantastic. Same thing here, and they have a very high, they used to do in Ukraine, they did American, European quality at Chinese prices. That's why they had all the foreigners in there. Is that something? I mean, it's time for American companies to go abroad, use acquisitions.
We sell a lot abroad. We haven't done much.
Doing foreign acquisitions?
Doing manufacturing. So.
I mean, even getting the timber mills and doing the same.
Pretty much in love with our resource here. I'd have to get my mind around that.
All right. Thank you.
Next
Thank
generation.
you.
All
right.
First of many such bill hearings. The Ways and Means Committee has a connection to the American public that dates back to the founding of our country. Every family, business, farmer, senior citizen, and frankly, foreign nation is impacted by our work. More importantly, our values are reflected in that work. But over the last few years, this committee's work and that of Congress has drifted from the needs of these good people. We must course correct. We must prioritize the voices in rooms like this one and not those of the Washington political class. We will hear today about the state of the American economy, and it is in danger. Historic inflation, high energy bills, declining real wages, labor shortages, spikes in interest rates, the supply chain crisis, China's unfair trade practices, and so much more. These are some of the challenges confronting working families that Republicans will work to solve. If we want to put our nation on sounder footing, we need to prioritize our most valuable resource, the American worker. And the first step is listening to Americans on the front lines of our economy, hearing their stories and their ideas for improving life for their families, their neighbors, and our country. The people of West Virginia are resilient, but life is undeniably harder than it was just 2 years ago. Communities like Petersburg have seen their voices drowned out by special interests in Washington, calling for more spending and more regulation that has fueled the fire of inflation. For many Americans, it feels like Washington has forgotten all about them. In West Virginia, the cost of living has increased 15.1% since President Biden took the oath of office, costing families a total of $7,000 and counting. For parents, it means choosing between new shoes for school or filling up your tank to get to work. For seniors, it means figuring out each month whether to pay for groceries or the heating bill. Gas prices have risen 42% in this state since Biden became president. Up and down the supply chain, farmers, businesses, and workers are being crushed. In West Virginia, there are 2 job openings for every unemployed person. Across this country, too many Americans have been incentivized by misguided Washington policies to sit on the sidelines of our economy and miss out on the dignity and the paycheck that came from a steady job. For small towns, it can mean treasured local establishments shutting their doors from lack of workers. Today we will hear from Tom Blogger, a 25-year employee of Allegheny Wood Products, our host today. Ashley Bachman, a mom of 3 and local restaurant owner. Wiley McDade, a veteran and co-owner of a local distillery. And Jamie Ward, West Virginia native and a 30-year veteran of the coal industry. The stories of our witnesses, Americans trying to make ends meet and provide for their families, tell the real state of the union. When President Biden gives that speech tomorrow, he'll claim the nation is finally turning a corner on inflation. The same inflation he spent a full year denying, and which his chief of staff called a high-class problem. The truth is that inflation has risen 13.9% across the country since Joe Biden took the oath of office. Skyrocketing costs are even worse in rural communities, where inflation is 130% higher than urban areas, and real wage growth is 25% lower. And after increasing government spending by $10 trillion with a T, he will ask the taxpayers through this committee to approve a clean increase of his ability to borrow more. President Biden will take credit for falling gas prices. Few things could be more insulting to the coal miners of West Virginia and energy producers across the country than to hear the president take credit for their hard work. In fact, this administration is shutting down fossil fuel production while throwing billions at green energy projects run by the Democrat donor class. Who knows if President Biden will bother to mention the supply chains? Small businesses waiting for parts and equipment on back order know that our supply chain issues haven't been solved. The struggle means lost revenue for businesses, smaller paychecks for workers, and higher prices for families. Instead of negotiating trade agreements to bring supply chains home and sell more American goods abroad, the Biden administration has been out to lunch. His speech will likely not mention the worker shortage, even though his party's war on work helped create the problem. The result has been help wanted signs everywhere, and the lowest labor force participation rate since Jimmy Carter. We need to connect more Americans to work. That's how you help lift families out of poverty. Where I come from in Missouri, people work hard and play by the rules. They buy Always Save mac and cheese, and they shop at Walmart to stay in their budgets. They get excited if a restaurant lets kids eat for free, because it means they can afford to spend a family night out. They deserve the same opportunities as the people who walk the halls of Congress. That's why we are here in Petersburg, to partner with the American people to find the solutions. It is their voice that matters most in writing the next chapter of American history, not K Street lobbyists. To that end, for those from the community in attendance here that are not testifying, and the employees of Allegheny, We want to hear from you too. We will be providing a notebook for you to share your thoughts with this committee, in which we will insert into the official record of the hearing. So throughout the hearing, those notebooks will be passed out, and I want more than just the 4 witnesses here to tell us about the issues you're concerned with in this country and your ideas for solutions, so that we can enter those into the official record and bring them back to Washington to help deliver results for each and every one of you. I want to thank our witnesses for taking time away from their families and work to be with us today and share their stories. I am pleased to recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Byer, who will serve as acting ranking member today for his opening statement. Mr. Byer.
Chairman Smith, thank you very much, and thank you for scheduling this hearing. Thank you for bringing us to West Virginia. I am so glad you chose Appalachia and West Virginia specifically to host this first Ways and Means Committee hearing in this Congress. This may be the only time I ever get to be the acting ranking member of Ways and Means, so thank you. And I may be one of the very few Democrats around, but I want you to know how much I care about your children, your health, your family finances, and especially your future. You know, communities throughout this region and my own state of Virginia have been the first to experience the direct effects of massive economic forces that have come to dominate policy discussions in Washington and in capitals around the world. The consequences of the energy transition and globalization have been felt first and often hardest in communities like this one. So I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to hear how local businesses have adjusted to these and the other trends affecting the U.S. economy. This is a particularly great time and place to host a hearing, since businesses, workers, and families in West Virginia are beginning to take advantage of the numerous programs recently passed by Congress and signed by President Biden. Despite the expectations of many in Congress, last Congress was historically productive, at least from my perspective, and delivered a series of massive investments for Appalachia and West Virginia in infrastructure, clean manufacturing, energy security, as well as R&D that will make the region well-positioned to compete in the 21st century. Companies in Appalachia are already capitalizing on the variety of tax credits and direct investments we've made in those new bills. Multiple new large battery manufacturing plants have been announced in West Virginia in the last year, along with an electric school bus factory and a host of others throughout the region, bringing in thousands of high-quality manufacturing jobs. Furthermore, federal funding provided by the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and the tax credits in the Inflation Reduction Act, West Virginia is leading the way in diversifying and growing its energy portfolio. You are taking advantage of your high-skilled workforce and existing energy infrastructure to establish a clean hydrogen hub that will supply the energy needs for the region as we move towards a wider variety of cleaner fuels. And individual taxpayers stand to benefit directly as well, with the Inflation Reduction Act including a series of tax credits and rebates, which will provide much needed relief to families dealing with inflation by dramatically lowering energy costs. Hundreds of thousands of low and middle-income households in the state will soon be able to replace older, less efficient appliances with electric heat pumps, clothes dryers, water heaters at steep discounts that will save them hundreds of dollars per year on their utility bills.